There's one. A freaking good sheep right there. What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. My name's Alec. This is my channel. I do a lot of videos year round. This is gonna be a different style video for me. Now, get out of here. Go, get out of here. This is gonna be a different style video for me. It is now February 9th. Sheepshead are already starting to show up near and around some of our local jetties. So I figured I'd make a video going over kind of the 3 T's is what I have in my head. And that's gonna be the timing, tactics, and tackle that you need to think about when you're gonna go out for these Texas sheepshead. We're actually gonna start off talking about the timing. Now every year it varies just a little bit differently. A lot of fronts will kind of push it back, but typically those sheepshead, they're gonna be in and around the jetties anywhere from January to April. Now I say January to April, I do really good the first 2 weeks of March. I'll actually be moving away from Corpus, going back to Central Texas. I'll be posting a lot more freshwater videos, but my plan is I'll still be making trips down during March to come get after some sheepshead. I say it varies just because I've talked to a bunch of people on the jetties. I love to talk. If you've met me on the jetty, chances are we talked a little too much probably. But a lot of old timers, they love it late January. And I see a lot of them getting caught in April too as well. But once that water starts to get too hot, they'll kind of die down with the movement and feeding. And then it kind of goes into you'll pick a sheepshead up randomly, but it's not the full-blown spawn when they're just crawling all over the rocks, when you're catching them full of eggs. That's typically going to be February to March. So if you're planning on making a trip for sheepshead to really any jetty system, I know it happens faster down south. They're already catching limits of sheepshead down in Port Mansfield. But up here in Corpus, Port A, I really like to target them February, March. So now we're going to go over tackle. With tackle, keep it super simple. I go out there and I see a lot of people running really intricate rigs. There's all kinds of rigs you can run for sheepshead during the spawn, and when there's a lot of sheepshead around, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So I like to run the simplest rigs that I can, and really I take a lot of bulk tackle out there. You're fishing in the rocks. These fish are swimming around rocks. Your shrimp is going to be tumbling around rocks. You're going to lose tackle. That's part of it. So I like to do it as cheaply as possible. So with tackle, I can fish for these sheepshead all day with really just 2 buckets, and I'm going to show you what I have in both these buckets. Bucket number 1 is just my aerator bucket to keep the bait alive. Now sheepshead, typically I like to throw live shrimp for them. So what I've learned early in the run is that they're going to really target and key on ghost shrimp in the sand. So I do keep a ghost shrimp pump in my truck year round. I throw it in my toolbox. Keep that. They'll go from ghost shrimp to live shrimp typically. And then when it's full blown run, you can literally put small pieces of dead shrimp on a hook. I mean, you can cut a live shrimp that's not that big into 5 pieces, perch size baits, and get them to bite on it. Big sheepshead. You can get big sheepshead to bite on it. That's what's nice about it. But bucket number 1 is just my live well aerator bucket. I do recommend when you buy your aerator, keep it in the plastic as long as possible. This one's lasted me a couple years. I lost the plastic to it while I was rinsing it out one day. I don't know what happened, or it ripped off, but it's on its last leg. But if you keep it in the plastic, they'll last a lot longer. Now bucket number 2, besides me putting my wallet and keys and stuff, really there's not much in it. 30-foot stringer. I use a 30-foot stringer because we know how the rocks are. With this, you can a lot of times tie off to the railings, especially at Packery Channel, or tie off to your bucket, and you have 30 feet to really find a spot to where those sheepshead can slip through the rocks, or you can hold your sheepshead in one place on the rocks. Secondly, carry a couple corks. Now I'll go over this real quick. I'll show you. Each one of these corks have something to tie like a leader line onto. They're not like slide-on corks, and I'll talk about that later. I keep a roll of 30, 40, this is 40 pound. Now, sheepshead, I've never known them to be leader shy by any means. I'll even put 65 if that's just what I have on there, or what I have in my bucket is a spool of 65. But I usually just keep a big bulk spool of line. This is 40. Also think about it like this. If you get that fish close to the rocks with something like 40 and 50, which is still large, don't get me wrong, for jetty fishing, especially for sheepshead, but even with this 40, I can just grab my leader line, and that's this 40, and I can lift big fish up off the rocks. And that keeps you from going down in the rocks and waves washing on you and you falling in or slipping. You see it happen every year. Last thing is just a tackle box. Whole bunch of lead and a whole bunch of hooks. Now I'm down to a bunch of big hooks that I don't usually use with sheepshead, but I just keep one box, Cork's leader line, and stringer. Also, get yourself some pliers. These are a little rusted, but get some good pliers. Sheepshead's mouth, they're hard, they got the teeth. But yeah, that's really it. The tackle, like I said, keep it simple. There's no reason. I see people doing it all the time, tying like drop shot rigs, three-way split rigs, cork rigs, lemon bobber rigs. You can do that, but like I said, it's really not necessary to. And if you're a beginner, this is your first time, just keep it simple, right? These fish are, a lot of times they're easy to catch. The guy that's throwing the drop shot is gonna be catching as much fish as the guy throwing the lemon rig, right? Because there's so many fish there, it's a spawn. I'm gonna go a little bit more into depth about the hooks I use. So I got some 4/0 circle hooks and some 1/0 Kell hooks. Kell, also say croaker style hooks is what I refer to them as most of the time. But I'm gonna show you something here. When we're looking at the size of hooks, those are not big by any means. Sheepshead, they don't have a big mouth, they have a hard mouth. So I would say if you're buying like super extravagant hooks, buy hooks that have a bigger shank, thicker shank. I see a lot of guys run treble hooks for them. I don't get it. When I'm fishing for sheepshead, a lot of times it's around rocks. I get having 3 prongs, you know, to penetrate a fish's mouth. But when I'm thinking about my bait rolling around the rocks, I'm thinking about a single shank. This is way less likely to get hung up in my opinion. It's always what I've done, being honest. But hey, if you want to use trebles, hey, more power to you. Like I said, I want to mess with 1 prong and not 3. Second thing with my lead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to run various sizes of lead. This is a size 5, just Ozark Trail Walmart brand, and a size 4. Now with these, when I say run various sizes, sometimes a lot of tide movement, I'm going to be using a heavier weight to get my shrimp down. Not a lot of tide movement, I'll use a lighter split shot. And sometimes when it's the spawn, you can fish them on a slack tide and use no weight at all. A lot of times when it's full spawn, you're gonna sit there and you're gonna see fish come up right in front of you on rocks, sitting on rocks, coming over and cresting a rock with a wave. They're everywhere. So really, like I said, I just adjust your weight with the current. Third thing with my corks, again, just simple corks. These as well, I don't buy pre-made rigs from the store. Looking at these, I'll show you. I actually really like these style of corks right here. They got the lead at the bottom, so when you throw it in there, you're gonna tie your leader down here, and this will be down to your main line. This lead is gonna make that cork stand up. And the reason I like that is because a lot of times sheepshead, it could be a 10-pound sheepshead, it's gonna be a real subtle pull down. Whenever that lead's there, this cork's gonna sit a little bit lower in the water, especially with your shrimp and your split shot on your rig as well. And you're gonna be able to really see those subtle bites of those sheepshead when they slowly pull that cork under. 2, with our tackle, about keeping it simple. These are just bulk packs, right? You're fishing on rocks, you're gonna lose gear. So I'd say buy bulk. Now with these together, we're rounding up $6, $6, $3, $3. We're at $18. $2 each for these corks. So we're fishing for all afternoon on $22 with the gear, minus whatever your bulk spool is, pliers and all that stuff. But go inside, dude. Hey, I'm making a video. Can you go inside? Co-host back here. But we're gonna be fishing all afternoon on $22 worth of tackle. So now I'm gonna talk about rods. You don't need these big bulky rods to catch sheepshead. You can come down here with your bass rod, your catfish rod, ultralights. I use a medium light a lot of times to catch sheepshead. They do fight. I'd compare a sheepshead fight to like a 5-pound sunfish. If you've ever caught like a big shell cracker sunfish, imagine one that's 5 pounds. That's what I always say. They're like a big panfish. They like to spin in circles. Big ones will take you up and down the rocks, don't get me wrong, but a lot of times you're just pulling them in on a straight line and they're just fighting left and right and spinning on themselves right there. So the first rig that I'm gonna take is a 7.6 medium light. I'm gonna be running 15 to 20 pound braided line, and usually I'm using the 40-pound leader. This is a 7.6. I would recommend, if you're new to this and it's your first time, I'd recommend 7 and above. Just because the sheepshead, they're on the face of the rocks, they're on the other side of the rocks, they're in cracks. Using a longer rod is going to give you that leverage to really lift that fish's head up and get them out of the rocks, get them out of the stuff that can cut you off. And again, I'd recommend like a medium to medium heavy. If it's your first time, this is medium light. I like to get beat up. This is kind of like my finesse rod. Now, when I'm mad at them and I don't really want to play with them, and I want to get my limit and go, this is a 7.3 Terramar. I broke the tip off and replaced it myself. It used to be 7.6, but this is a 7.6. This has 20-pound braid. Again, 40-pound leader material on here. On both of these rods, I'm gonna have a 3,000 to 4,000 size reel. You don't need 5,000, 6,000s. You can go down even to 2,000s, 3,000s. I have a 5.6 with a 3,000 on it. It's a medium heavy rod. It's like a bulk up ultralight. I'll put a link below using that rod, but I use that rod. I also have a 12-foot catfish rod that was kind of like a joke video. Not catching the fish, but I wanted to see what it was like to catch them on it, and that was fun. I'll link that one below too. But really, if it's your first time, if you've never fished sheepshead, I'd recommend like a medium to medium heavy power, or even a heavy rod with a fast tip, because the bite can be subtle. 20-pound line, 30-pound main line, 20 to 40-pound leader. The tackle we talked about. Really, just keep it simple. You don't want to overthink these fish. They're really sought after, and it's a target-rich environment. So the last thing, I'm going to talk about my 2 favorite tactics to really target sheepshead. These are going to be super simple ways to target them. They're not the best way by any means. Don't want to ruffle anyone's feather out there, but these are 2 super simple ways to target them, especially if you're breaking off a lot. If you're new to this and this is a different style of fishing, these are the 2 I would recommend to target sheepshead with. Now, the first one I'm going to talk about is my free line rig. I say free line, but we're going to be using a split shot. This is all it is. Whenever I'm free lining, I'm going to be running one of those small circle hooks and a weight about 6 to 8 inches above it. This is all it is. Tied to your main line. That weight, like I said, adjust your weight. There's 2 types of ways that I'll free line a shrimp or any sort of bait at Packery Channel. I like to call it tight line and then like a slack line, free line. So with tight line, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be casting this out and I'm going to be letting my shrimp drift, but I'm going to keep slight pressure with my shrimp the whole time. It's tight line. And I'm going to really feel that shrimp. When you're tight line drifting your bait, you'll really feel your shrimp roll over rocks. You'll feel it get stuck. And sheepshead, they're just a peck and then like pull down a lot of times. You'll really feel that hard peck and that slow pull. Now, slack lining, I wouldn't say it's more advanced, but it's just something else I do. I'll throw out, and once my line comes tight, I'll open my bill, let some more slack out. If you fished, and especially like bass fish, and the way you see a bass knock a line and make your line jump, that's what I'm looking for when I'm slack lining. Now, the second way I like to target them, again, I'm gonna keep this super simple. I still think one of the funnest and most effective way, especially if you're taking kids, right, is you see a bobber go under, is to just run a cork with a long leader. Here we have a different style cork from earlier, tied on there. And I'll show y'all, I'm 6 foot, and that's almost my wingspan. So it's probably 5, 10, almost 6 feet from the top of the cork to my hook right there. Now, when I'm running a cork rig, K.O. hook. I'm not gonna run a circle hook. I don't have the patience to reel to tightness, like for a circle hook like you're supposed to. I just have this real primal urge. When a cork goes under, I'm gonna jerk the hell out of the rod. So, K.O. hook. And again, it's about 6 feet, 5.5, 6 feet of leader line. With that, again, this is somewhere where you can play with your leader length. Those fish are gonna be right in front of you. When I say right in front of you, you'll see I'm gonna run some catch footage doing both methods, and I'm only casting 15 to 20 feet in front of me a lot of times on the rocks. So that's pretty much it for timing, tackle, and tactics. If you enjoyed this video and got some useful information, hit that subscribe button. Make a lot of videos. If you like the instructional stuff and y'all want me to do more of it, please leave a comment, let me know. What I'll do right now is I'll play some footage, both of free lining and using the cork rigs and catching some sheepshead. There he is. And the lighter rod down low. Oh! It's another good one. Oh man. There he is. Awesome. Oh, it's acting big. Oh, should have brought a net. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Got one. Oh. I think it's a black drum. Yeah, they don't look like a sheephead. No, it's a sheep. He looked real pale like a black drum for a second. Really? Should have left him right by me, Tim. Oh, it's a good one too. So we're out here at Packery Channel. Finally got on them.